Hey, good morning, friends. Welcome to the Bright Side. I am Pharmacist Ben. Thanks for joining us. 844-236-6010 is our number if you have questions about health, nutrition, prescription drugs. If you want to wean yourself off your meds and get on a good nutritional supplement program, we're here for you. If you have a success story you'd like to share, or if you want to contribute to the conversation, 844-236-6010 is our number. If you want to purchase longevity products, go to brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. Don't forget to sign up to join the Brightside Ben team and start a home-based business. Now's a perfect time to work for yourself and work out of the home. Help spread the word about how important a nutritional supplement program can be, especially if you've personally benefited. Pay it forward and pay yourself as well. Make some money and change the world with nutritional supplementation and the power of nutrition. Call 866-735-2470 if you want to speak to a real live person for more info, or click on the Join the Team link at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. All right, 844-236-6010 is our number. We're going to be talking to Dr. Brett Earl at the bottom of the hour about digital body analysis, which is a diagnostic tool that's being used by not a lot of docs, but Dr. Brett's been using it. It involves resonance, something called bioresonance, which is the way the body responds to electrical energy. There's lots of things you can detect in the body structurally by using these resonant frequencies. This idea of the electrical nature of the body is really under-leveraged, in my opinion. We really don't understand, or we really don't take advantage of this electrical nature, although it is changing. I will say it is changing. We've been spending a lot of time talking about fats here, and one of the main reasons fats are so important is because of their ability to hold on to energy. This ability that fatty material has to hold on to energy is why you can't get stains out of your clothes, why oil stains don't come out of your clothes, or pigment stains don't come out of clothes, because of this electrical nature that fats have. This electrical nature that fats have makes them a little more difficult for the body to handle. That's why you have to have a bile, and you have to have the pancreatic system working correctly, pancreatic enzymes, and your liver and your intestine. There's a lot of things that have to go right for fats to be processed correctly. And there's a lot of things that have to go right for fats to get utilized and integrated into the body correctly. Thank God we don't have to think about all of that. Just the cell membrane itself. Obviously, if you've listened to this program, you know I'm just in absolute awe of the cell and all the things the cell has inside of it, and all the complexity and all the ways it works and all the things it does. But the cell membrane, this little coating, I mean, it's really important that we don't think of the cell membrane as just a skin, like a peel on an apple. That's not what the cell membrane is, although relatively the size is probably similar, the peel compared to an apple. But a membrane, contrary to what we saw in biology class in high school, is more than just a circle or a line. It is this incredibly integrated, incredibly complex and integrated crystal. It's a crystal that is so small you can only see it with an electron microscope, thousands of times smaller, or 1,000 times smaller than the cell itself. Yet this membrane is the key to everything. Everything. I don't know how, I can't emphasize that enough. The membrane is the key to everything in health and in biology and in how the body works. Because it's all about the cell, but the cell is all about the membrane. And the membrane has tremendously important electrical charges associated with it, and those electrical charges come from fats. We've been talking about the immune system. Everybody's talking about the immune system now. That's the kind of the, even if you don't know about health, that's kind of a buzzword, the immune system, which is really cool, by the way, because last year at this time, probably half the people who know about the immune system had any idea what was going on in terms of immunity. But we still don't address immunity like we could. I was listening today, I don't know why I was, because you should never listen to the news, but I had the news on, and they were talking about how now in North Dakota, they think that you should be wearing a mask when you're at home, watching football with your friends. Yes, you're going to have to wear a mask in your house now. That's what they're at least discussing. I don't know if they're preparing us for something. Whatever. This whole idea about the immune system being supported by hiding behind a mask or in the house, and nary a word about building the immune system. And even if they talk about building the immune system, they talk about supplements that build the immune system. But you know what we don't talk about? we don't talk about the immune cell. We sometimes forget that the immune system, like any other part of the body, is cellular. In fact, in a way, the cellular nature of the immune system is even more profound and dramatic, because the immune cells are constantly, they're hardworking. They're constantly dividing. They're constantly making things. More than even regular cells. They're burning through nutrients. And guess what? Among the key nutrients, I almost say the key nutrient, but among the key nutrients for the immune system cells, the white blood cells, is fats. Yes, because white blood cells have membranes like any other cells. And we focus on antibodies, we focus on the things that come out of immune cells, because the drug companies want us to think that. They want to divert our attention from where it's really going on, which is the cell. Why? Because at the level of the cell, we have control from the comfort of our own homes. We don't have to go outside our cells to take care of the immune cell. Guess what you have to take for the immune cell? Fats, especially essential fatty acids. Immune cells are highly electrically charged. They're doing lots of stuff. The membrane is really important. Of course, it's important for all cells. Job number one when it comes to your immune system is take care of your immune cell, not hiding in the house. Take care of the immune cell. The immune cell, like all cells, is electrical first. And the focal point of the immune cell, like the focal point of all other cells, is the membrane. In fact, the relationship between the electrical nature of the inside and the membrane is called a charge potential or membrane potential. It's called the potential. That means it's like a battery, and it has a pulling effect. This battery pulls from the outside in. That's how oxygen comes into a cell, and when the fats are off, this pulling doesn't happen. When the membrane is tweaked, the pulling doesn't happen, and the cell can't get nourished, and the cell can't get oxygenated. It's all about the membrane, and that's where fats come in, and that's where essential fatty acids come in, essential fats, which some people call vitamin F, because they have a vitamin-like effect, in the sense that without them, you are in big trouble. And guess what? Most people are without them. Most people, the vast majority of people, are not getting enough essential fatty acids because they're so unstable. And if you're not supplementing, you're not going to have enough. And if you don't have enough, the body will try to use what it has, and that is a very bad thing. Now you have Hershey bar and pizza cell membranes, mozzarella cell membranes. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. We'll be back on the bright side right after this. All right, we're back on the bright side. 844-236-6010 is our number. If you have questions about health, nutrition, prescription drugs, or a comment or success story you'd like to share, if you want to wean yourself off your meds and get on a good nutritional supplement program, we're here for you. We've got Dr. Brett Earl coming up in our next segment. Dr. Earl is a emergency room doc and board certified, and he's also he uses a technology that's called an AO scan, a digital body analyzer. We'll talk about the digital body analysis and bioresonance with Dr. Earl in our next segment. 844-236-6010 is our number. So we've been talking about this whole idea of the membrane, the cell membrane, just ridiculously complex, and so much stuff happening in this little sliver of oil on top of a cell. It's unbelievable. There's this structure inside the membrane called that slides back and forth along the membrane. Check this out. Membrane has got all kinds of things happening on it, hundreds of thousands of different proteins and receptors, and you can have hundreds of thousands of different so-called receptors on the outside of a cell, and these receptors are constantly interacting with the membrane via parts of the membrane that slide. They're called rafts, like boats. They slide around the membrane. Can you imagine this? And as they slide, they're generating electrical charges, and they interact with receptors. As they interact with receptors, they change the way the receptors work. This is why HRT, hormone replacement therapy, is fraught with danger. Because how well a hormone works depends on the membrane. And if you have cells that don't have healthy membranes and you try to do HRT, you're playing with fire. This is why some people have a problem with HRT. And it can cause all kinds of issues. Not everybody does, but if you have problems with your fats, you're going to have problems with your hormones. If you have problems with your fats and your hormones, you're going to have a problem with HRT. That's why essential fatty acids, by the way, have certain hormonal properties. They have hormonal effects. Like with estrogen, if you're on HRT, you might want to start using, upping your, either starting or upping your dose of essential fatty acids. Your HRT will work better. Your hormones will work, your hormone replacement therapy hormones will work better. Your drug hormones will work better. And you won't need to take as much. You might not even need to take any. And there are women who don't have hot flashes and who don't have menopausal symptoms when they get on a good EFA supplement. The value of omega-6s and omega-3s is impossible to overstate. They're just so incredibly important for all health issues. EFAs act like statin drugs. Do you know that? EFAs act like antihypertensives. EFAs act like ACE inhibitor drugs. EFAs, essential fatty acids, omega-6, omega-3, have medicine properties, and it's true all nutrients have medicine properties, but these have dramatic medicine properties. Plus, most people are deficient. And it's not a coincidence that chronic degenerative disease started to spike when we started to figure out how to please or indulge our taste buds in fats cheaply. It used to be that fats were somewhat premium because they couldn't make them. That's how the whole story of the invention of margarine was, because they didn't have enough butter to feed the army, and they wanted to come up with a butter substitute, and that's how they came up with margarine. It was some guy in France won some prize for coming up with a substitute for butter. Of course, it was disgusting. They actually had to. It was colored gray. They had to. There was a big fight. The butter manufacturers didn't want the margarine manufacturers coloring their product like butter. Because they were threatened. So now that's why margarine has like an orange color now. So you know it's not butter. It's actually, I think legally they're not allowed to make it colored like butter. Legally it has to be orange because it's gray. It's just this horrible food stuff. Now they have these other spreads. You know, as somebody who's been talking nutrition for a long time, I just took it for granted. Everybody knew these spreads were awful for you, and they are awful for you. But I shouldn't have, because there are I'm speaking to an echo chamber here, talking to you guys, because we're all on the same wavelength here. But most people in this country, and probably around the world, but in this country, think that stuff is good. And there are a lot of doctors who will tell them that stuff is good. The problem with that stuff, like the problem with mozzarella cheese and Hershey bars, is the body will take in the fats it has. It will start to incorporate the wrong fats, processed fats. If it doesn't have enough essential fats, it'll work with what it has. And this is where the dysfunction to the cell comes in, and you cannot possibly not have a chronic disease, especially, by the way, cancer. Cancer needs to be regarded as a membrane issue. And by the way, this whole idea of the membranes, where epigenetics comes in. This is where Dr. Wallach and Dr. Lipton, Bruce Lipton, this is where these guys, this is where they're honing in. They're honing in on the membrane. This epigenetic phenomena is a membrane phenomena. Dr. Lipton in particular writes a lot about the cell membrane. Because you can't do epigenetics you can't understand epigenetics, you can't leverage epigenetics without working at the level of the membrane. The membrane is reading the environment. And you know what it's reading in the environment? To put it simply, it's reading, is the environment good for me or is the environment bad for me? That's basically what it is. Now, good for me means there's lots of good nutrients, it's clean, and there's oxygen. That's why I say the only three things that can go wrong with a cell: starvation, suffocation, and toxification. A cell will look at that stuff. The membrane will read the soup, and cells are all sitting in soup. The membrane will read the soup for all the stuff. And when all the stuff is there, it will say, let's get going, let's do some work. When the stuff isn't there, it will shrink up. It will shrivel. It will contract, literally. It will shrivel and it will contract. That's all that's happening in a cell. It's either expanding or contracting. That's why this primal dualism, anabolism and catabolism, expanding and contracting, relaxing and contracting. There's all kinds of these primary dualisms. They're all basically the same things: positive charges, negative charges. They're all basic alkaline, pH, high pH, low pH, acid base. So it's basically a primary dualism, and that's why in the Bible it says you're either with me or against me. You can, in A Course in Miracles, they talk about fear and love. You can use the nervous system, the sympathetic nervous system, and the parasympathetic nervous system. Job number one is to make sure cells have everything they need, so they feel like everything is right in their world. And that, by the way, means no toxicity. Starvation, suffocation, and toxification are the only three things that can go wrong with a cell. And as goes a cell, so goes we. As healthy as a cell is, that's how healthy we're going to be. And the membrane that's doing all the work is largely dependent on fats, especially essential fatty acids. It's made up of fat. The membrane is made up of fats and protein. The proteins are interspersed throughout the membrane. The rest of the membrane is fat. And oh, by the way, as if this wasn't like unbelievably cool, 1,000 times thinner than the membrane is a layer of sugar on top of the membrane. They call it the glycocalyx. I'm not even going to get into that, at least not now, because that's just the membrane. As amazing that is, now you've got another layer on top of it, a layer of sugar, and that thing is really important when it comes to the immune system. All right, we're back with Dr. Brett Earl on the bright side right after this. All right, we're back on the bright side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. We're on the air Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Pacific and 10 to 11 Central Time, 24/7 on the archive page at benfuchsarchives.com. We have a search engine up. Thank you to Peter in the UK for setting that up. We also have longevity products and videos and interviews and blog posts and news stories and lots of good health information at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, and criticalhealthnews.com, and of course all the longevity products as well, brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. And then don't forget to take a look at our Truth Skin Health products at truthtreatments.com and our 1,200 plus 4- and 5-star reviews at truthreviewed.com, truthreviewed.com. All right, I'm looking forward to speaking to our guest. Dr. Brett Earl is an outside-the-box, disruptive thinking medical doctor. He's a medical doctor with does some interesting things medicinally. He specializes in something called foundational medicine with a Western med background. He's an ER doc, and we're going to talk about digital body analysis. Please welcome to the bright side, Dr. Brett Earl. Hey, Dr. Earl.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good. Thank you for being here. I'm an outside-the-box disruptive thinking registered pharmacist, just so you know, so it's nice to meet you as a medical doctor. And we've been talking a lot about electricity and the electrical nature of the body, and bioelectricity is something I've been fascinated with since I started studying the body, the electrical nature of the body. And we've talked a lot about, and I've been especially intrigued by the work of Dr. Reif, Dr. Royal Reif, as well as Nikola Tesla. And all the stuff they talked about, the idea of bioelectricity and resonance and bioresonance, all falls in line with this digital body analyzer. So first of all, why don't you tell us how you went from ER doc to digital body analysis, and then let's talk about what exactly a digital body analyzer is and how you use it.
Wow. Well, it's kind of an interesting story because as an ER physician, I got to see everything, and that was really unique. It was a lot of fun, actually. I actually ran tactical with a SWAT team. I flew with Life Flight. I was seriously, if you want to talk about an adrenaline junkie, I was it. And really had an enjoyable time doing and practicing emergency medicine. I feel that it offered the unique opportunity to really impact lives in a big way. But about 10 years into my practice, I started to get sick. and we weren't piecing together all of the pieces. At the time, I was an avid weightlifter and ran a farm and just could run and exercise like crazy. And in 9 months, I went from being able to do that to barely being able to get a bar with very little weight, off my chest from a bench standpoint. And so I was plugged into the system. I was in the Western medicine system. And so I talked with cardiologists and pulmonologists and infectious disease and family practice, and you name it. I talked with everybody. And there were really no answers. In fact, it was interesting that at one juncture I got to the point where the doctor handed me a prescription for Prozac and said, maybe it's in your head. And I was...
You must have loved that.
So, yeah. Well, I was so beat down by that time. It had been years that I'd been trying to figure out what was going on. And in the meantime, my health is just going down like crazy. I gained 100 pounds. And I mean, you get the picture. Wow. And I actually filled the prescription. And I still remember the day that I sat with that pill bottle and looked at it and was just about ready to start down that path. And I'm so glad I didn't. But I had it right there. I had everything in my hands, the water, and just something said no. I put it down, and interesting, once I got to that depth of desperation, if you will, doors really started opening up, and I started studying. I got introduced to functional medicine and just became consumed with that. One of the conferences I went to talked about fungal infections, and I couldn't believe it, but I had all of the symptoms. So I started thinking back, where I might have picked up a fungus, and I remembered I'd moved my weights and my exercise equipment into an old room. We'd purchased a farm that had an old barn on it, and I moved my weights into a room that seemed to be fairly safe. Well, come to find out, it was filled with mold.
Yeah.
So I was in there breathing in black mold like crazy.
Wow. Working out while you were working out?
Yep. So my lungs were a mess. My oxygen saturation at rest had dropped down to 88%. It should be 92 and above. But fortunately, now I knew what I was dealing with, and I started the long process of getting back healthy. And I decided, man, if functional medicine has got me into this, it's going to get me out, because I knew the prescriptives only did so much. And I started that process, and in the meantime, I just became consumed with the basics, the science, the reality of medicine. I realized the limitations of Western medicine. There's a place for it, but we put way too much into that, or the pharmaceuticals, surgery, or what have you. And I realized that there was a much broader, more effective, and more beneficial way to practice medicine. And I started the transition, and it's been great. It's been a lot of fun. And I make a difference in people's lives every day. That's really what it's about. It's fortunate that I get to also, get paid to do that, but I love it. It's a lot of fun.
So tell us about the machine, and tell us how the digital. It's digital. And first, tell us about digital analysis. Then we'll talk about the machine.
Well, so digital analysis is an interesting topic. So the first thing, and you mentioned Tesla, and he said, if you want to understand the world, the universe around you, you need to focus on three things. It's energy, frequency, and vibration. Those were the three focuses that he talked about. And as I considered that, I went all the way back to my biochemistry and, everything that happened in medical school, and realized that the reality is, when we take a pharmaceutical, when we do things even in Western medicine, the body breaks it down into energy. It
becomes vibration.
That's right.
Yeah. And in fact, those little lines, those little lines that connect carbon to carbon and hydrogen to oxygen, they're not lines, they're energy. They're just...
That's exactly right.
Right.
Yes. Everything comes down to energy. Everything.
Yeah.
We take a pharmaceutical and the body breaks it in, tears it apart, and utilizes the energy.
Yeah.
Well, that changes your perspective on medicine.
Totally.
So now, instead of it just being these random pills, and this is sad. But the reality is, Western medicine doctors, and they don't see it, but they've been reduced to matchers. They match a symptom with
matchers.
Yeah.
They go to the book, they see the symptoms, and they match it to the pills that the book says to do.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
That's what it's devolved to. It shouldn't be that way, but it's devolved to that.
Evolved is the right word.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think it's nefarious? Do you think it's manipulative or marketing or what do you? It seems kind of evil. It seems kind of twisted to me. Not from the doctor's standpoint, but in the system standpoint, anti-human.
Yeah.
Hey, Doc, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
I want to talk specifically about the digital body analyzer. When we come back, we got Dr. Brett Earl on the bright side. We'll be back with Dr. Earl and on the bright side right after this. Okay, we are back on the bright side talking to Dr. Brett Earl about the AO Scan Digital Body Analyzer. Doc, before we went to break, you're talking about Tesla, energy, frequency, and vibration. And then there's a fourth element, which is how all that interacts with each other, and that I would call that resonance, right?
Yep.
How does all that play into this digital body analyzer? This idea of energy and frequency, vibration, and then resonance.
Well, if you start to understand that everything is energy, then you start to look at the universe differently from a science standpoint, and that's very important. And not necessarily in receiving the nutrients, but being able to deliver it to those that need care. So if we start to break down individual components and say, each individual component, atoms, all the way down to the atom, has its own individual frequency, an identifying frequency that is unique to that atom, that element, that product. And then as you start combining atoms together, so you talked about carbon. A lot of our body systems are made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Those combine together very well in and you mentioned the another wonderful word, resonance, which means that they combine together in a unique way that gives off its own unique sound, if you will, signal, frequency. And I don't want to say sound.
You could say sound. No, you could say sound. It definitely has a sound, doesn't it? There's music to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And recently, in fact, there was a research article, and I can't remember which company, which university, but they said they actually heard the song from an atom, which was really cool.
I read that. Yeah, I read that.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Awesome. So we understand that this is giving off its own energy, frequency, vibration, and then that connected makes a resonance. Well, we have technology now that can actually read that resonance and interpret it, and then give us a digital display of whether that is in balance with what we know is a perfect resonance for that combination of molecules or tissues or organs, or if it's off just a little bit. And that's really what the AO scanner does, the digital scanner, is your body, your brain, is reading and interpreting these signals all along, all the time. So that signal is already being sent. Well, with bone-conducting headphones, we then use that to read the signal from the body and then give us a digital readout of what is going on. And then we can say, okay, from a standpoint of perfectly balanced, you're to the right, to the left, you're up, you're down, what have you. And then, awesome, the resonance, we found that if you then give that signal, digital signal, back to the body in the balance that it should be, then that system will come back in line. It's just like tuning a piano. You just tighten the string or loosen the string just a little bit, and it comes back into resonance. It comes back into tune. That's the basic essence of what's going on here. That's the science. That's the quantum physics, if you will, of what's going on.
How does this differ from the Rife machine or from Rife's work?
Yeah, great question. And the reality is it's based a lot on Rife's work. Rife really was a pioneer in understanding how these frequencies happen. Now, Rife really focused a lot on sound and sound systems. This really looks a little bit more broadly, but in essence, It's taking Rife's work and moving it forward exponentially. Because now, I mean, Rife, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but he had a very finite number of molecules that really were affected by.
He's doing viruses and bacteria a lot, wasn't he?
Yes, that was his big focus, was viruses and bacteria, and we're looking at complete body systems. To the point, we read and interpret over 120,000 different frequencies. Those are available to us in the body.
Can you kill things like viruses and bacteria or microbes and fungi and such with your machine? Or is it just strictly analysis? Is it strictly analysis?
No, we actually, there is an optimization. So we call it education, just simply because of the niche that we have to fill from either the FDA or therapy type scenarios. But we talk about it being education. But then we do put that information, the optimization information, back into the body. Now, as far as killing, we really can't say that. But again, we understand that Rice technology was designed to either eliminate or make ineffective those viruses and parasites, bacterium, what have you. And so that technology is in there. Again, but you can't make a claim or something. You can't make claims, that kind of thing. I have to pull it short of saying that we actually kill it, simply because of the strain that we're in.
Would you personally use it if you had an infection?
Yeah, absolutely. I use this pretty much every day.
Wow. And not just for diagnostic purposes, as a tuning device, would you say?
That is the right way to say it. That's perfect. That is a great understanding of what we're doing, is just to try to bring myself back into tune. And, right now, because of my schedule and the way things are working out, I get up in the morning, I rush off to work and blah, 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 blah. But before I go to bed, I take all of this stress and everything that's happened throughout the day, and you're wearing that, is the way I think of it, and I take that scanner, put my body through it, and try to balance everything out. And it helps me sleep better. I feel like my energy's up. There's a lot of side effects, beautiful side effects that come from doing a change in frequency. The way to understand it is when you're in, and somebody plays the piano a lot, over time it gets out of tune just a little bit. And so I'm just bringing everything back in tune each and every day. Or if something's way out of tune, then I just, on a daily basis, try to bring it back just a little bit more towards center and towards balance.
Can you do psychological? Can you retune for psychology, for psychological purposes? And how about brainwaves? Does it do anything with brainwaves, with brainwave energy?
Well, so yes, it does. A part of the 120,000 different frequencies that it can interpret, it does do some modulation there. But theta, delta, alpha, and beta waves, the brain waves specifically, it doesn't focus on those, again, very specifically. But most of those are components of all of the other information that's coming from the body. So it's kind of the chicken or egg scenario. Okay, is it out of balance because of this or that? And we just find that bringing the body back into balance then brings the mind back into balance.
Are you familiar with binaural beats? Have you heard of that technology? Anything like that, like where you can hone in on specific waves using that kind of technology?
Yes. Very, very similar technology. And again, once you start to get into, and you said it beautifully, which is once you start to get into energy, frequency, vibration, and resonance, once you start to get into that realm, there's an incredible amount of crossover. There just is.
Yeah, because we're electrical beings. All our systems are electrical, and they're all It's like every cell is an electrical entity, kind of. So it's all, and they're all humming at their own frequencies. It must be incredible if you could see it with the right detection devices. Just even what one cell could do, let alone 100 trillion of them. Gosh, that's awesome, Dr. Earl. How do people, if they want to interact with this machine, get the machine? Or can consumers get it, or is it only for professionals? Or how does that work?
No, anyone can get this. You can go to aoscanmobile.com, aoscanmobile.com, and you can get additional information there. There's a contact us link down below where you can get address, phone number. You can talk to some professionals on the phone and get some additional information. And that's, again, just aoscanmobile.com.
Is it the kind of thing that a therapist can buy for their practice and then charge money for doing scans and analysis?
Yes, and there's actually another product. It's kind of the mobile scanner, souped up, if you will, in a laptop. A lot of professionals have used that, but the nice thing is you can put this in the hands of each of your clients, if you will, and they can do scans on a daily basis and start bringing them back into balance. And then you just as a practitioner coordinate that care. So it works out really well if you're a practitioner and want to really increase the happiness, the productivity of your patients.
And that's did you say aoscan.com?
aoscanmobile.com.
aoscanmobile.com. AOSCAN mobile.com. Hey, Dr. Earl, thank you so much for being on. Appreciate it. Best of luck to you.
Thanks for your time. You take care.
All right, take care. All right, that was Dr. Brett Earl, ER doc, functional medicine doc, and AOScan digital body analyst, I suppose you'd say. His website, aoscanmobile.com, and that's all the time we have for today on The Bright Side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Have yourselves a wonderful, beautiful, awesome, spectacular day. We'll talk to y'all later, folks. Bye for now.